Welcome back to the Last Garage. Today we have something a little bit different than our normal way on how we show how-tos, but with the extent of this video, it would be an extremely long video if I was to go step by step as I was doing it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through and point out what you need to do when you need to do it, and I'm going to show you a few little key tips and tricks on how to make this just a smooth process. Now, right here we got ourselves a Dyna, but this is going to be generally about the same for soft tail, for cruiser, other than a lot more to remove on a cruiser. But it's also work for your V-Stars, your Hondas. There's going to be quite a few things in this that are going to comply with how you do on those ones as well. So, without further ado, everybody that is retuning into this channel, welcome back. Anybody that is your first time, please like and subscribe. It really helps out the channel. So, let's get into it. Okay, so we have a bar install. Now, if you notice that headlight, I was taste testing a headlight. I don't like it. But that's not going to go back on. I'm going to get something different. This one, what happened there was, this is a $70 eBay special. I really only bought it because I wanted to see how a 7-inch would look. Well, they listed this as a 7-inch. It's not. It's 7 inches from here to here. So, thanks, China. Okay, so step one. You're going to want to removing your tank. You can do this without removing your tank. I would not suggest it. Your possibility of damaging your paint, damaging your console, it's just not worth it. So, remove tank, you wind up taking off your gauge bezel. Take off these two screws right here. That'll pull right on up. You're going to have a gasket along here. It's going to want to fall off. You can use like a super glue to reattach it, just not too much. Or you can, I didn't use super glue. All I did was just fit it in there and then squish it in and it stays nice in place. So once you got that off, you have, I think there's two electrical connections, and a hose. So that's done. Your second thing, have a bucket ready because, well, if you did not pre-plan for this and run almost all the fuel out of your bike, you're going to have however much is in there. So you kind of got two options on this. Your first option is going to be to disconnect right here. I actually disconnected on the other side. And then what I did was I plugged it. I used a little vacuum plug on the nipple, and then this hose I routed to a bucket, and then I just drained everything out. You still have fuel on one side, but it's less than what you would have. Okay, so now you have that hose out of the way. You have a bolt here, and you have a bolt right down into there. So you got to remove your seat. On these Dynas, it's literally one screw head, and your seat comes off. Then that's removed. If you have a bib protector, you'll have a bolt here and a bolt here. Remove both of those, and then voila, you got your tank off. Now I'm going to show you right here. So your main reason why you want to remove your tank, for one, you have your push and pull cables right here. I don't know how well you can see them right off of here. Your push and pull. They are zip tied underneath there. And getting them out might be an easy thing, but getting them back into those zip ties, that would be a pain in the butt. Connect in right here. You see that right there, and one right behind it. Next, what I do is I remove the controls So you have one and you have two, and then you have to loosen up that one and that one right there. Loosen those two up, and then your clutch and your brake will just come, they'll kind of come right off. You kind of drape those down onto the ground, make sure they're not going to hit anything that you don't want scratched up, which should be nothing on your bike that you want scratched up. Then you can go on to your throttle. So it probably doesn't really matter. Make sure that your tension set is all the way out. Loosen up, and this will pull apart. Now as you're pulling this apart, you're going to have little tabs that sit on the end of these cables that go in. As you're feeding those out, they're very, very small and they'll fall off. So make sure that you watch for those. They will fall off and you will lose them. On a plus note, most of your cables that you're going to buy come with new ones. But just in case if they don't, or maybe you want to reuse your cables because you're not going extremely high on your bars, make sure you don't lose those. And then on this side, it's the same thing, except for all this is just an electrical that's in there, so it'll just kind of hang. Now for on these dynas, what you have on each side is you have these holes that go into the frame, which your anaconda harness, as they like to call it, is inside there. Now, you're probably not going to be able to just pull it right through. So, directly underneath here, let's see if I can get a little view of that. Okay, you see that little plastic right there? That comes out. You take that out, and then that'll give you access to the bottom of this. Therefore, you can actually fish the harness up and out that way so that you can get to the plugs which are in there. You have a plug on these dynas, you have a plug for your controls, and then you have a separate plug which is actually for your lights. If you notice, on mine I routed my lights, my turn signals, exterior of the main harness itself. That's because I plan on relocating the lights down here. So rather than snipping wires up there or taking the whole thing apart in order to try and fish it through, that's how I did it. Now since we have everything disconnected, you're no longer attached here, you're no longer attached here, you're no longer, this is loose but not still attached, this is loose but still attached. You might not have a power vision. I had a power vision attached, just disconnect and disconnect. I don't know if I showed this before. This is kind of the setup I got. What I did is I drilled and tapped into this, and I have a bolt. That's just a tech mount right there. That was started its life as a handlebar mount, but I did not like how the handlebar mount was. I thought it was kind of chintzy. But it's got this nice metal piece that goes into the tech mount, and I chopped the handle part off of it, and it had a bolt going through the middle of it. So that's what's tied into there. Some the dreaded red Loctite. I don't ever plan on removing it. But now since you have with all that removed, let's go ahead and remove our 4 bolts. Make sure you're holding on to your handlebars, otherwise they might fall down, hit something, damage the handlebars. You're removing them, but you maybe might want to resell them later on, or you might want to re-put them onto the bike. So remove those and then pull your handlebars off. Your electrical components will be included with that. So here comes the fun part. So you have to if you're external wiring it, it's easy. If you're internal wiring it, it can be a little bit of a pill, but I got a little trick for that. And it's great being in Alaska because we get stuff like fishing stuff. Okay, so you got something like this. So all it is just a fishing weight tied onto fishing line. So here's the old bars right here. You know, not very many curves on them, but if you compare these to what I put on the bike, what I got on the bike is a lot more extravagant. But it's gonna be the same concept. You just toss that into the hole. You let gravity do its thing. Then, don't make an ass out of me. This should be super easy. Just like that. Then, so leave that on that end. This is where you're going to be attaching. Well, obviously it won't have a hook on the end of it, but you're going to tie this, electrical tape it to your wires that are going to need to go into your new bars. That way, so that you can just and pull them right on through. Now what I did with the bars off the bike is the bars off the bike, the electrical disconnected and sitting on the bench. I cut about a foot in and that's where my new splice was going to be on my wires. You can depin. The problem that I was foreseeing was if I was depin, I was going to have too big of a head with all those pins to go through something like this or that. So I just decided that I would prefer just to resolder it, and I was unsure if I was going to have to put extensions on it anyways, so I just went and cut it. It worked for me. It might work for you, but these are the things that work for me. I'm pretty fluent on soldering. It's pretty easy. Another note, when you are working on your new bars, or even your old bars, put a towel down where you're going to be resting your bars. If you notice, I don't know if you can see this in the camera, I have scuffs right there, right there. Learn from my mistakes. I did not put a towel down, and the finish, these are DNA bars, is crap. Oh well. Another thing, if you came here because you saw these DNA bars, so these are supposedly for a Harley. Sure, they're for a Harley. What I had to do is I put these on and mainly ran into it on this side right here. I had to extend this end, the bar itself, by 1/2 inch. It was too short, and if you notice, I have it right up to the curb. Let me just show you like this. You can't push that any further this way. I don't know if I got a dud. I don't know if they're a dud. It's DNA. They were cheap. They were about $200. So relatively on the cheap side for handlebars. This side, because what I have in here is I have the bearing that sits on the end that kind of makes it a little more smooth in there, and that adds a 1/2 inch. So in order to install that, they say to cut 1/2 inch off. I did not cut 1/2 inch off. I just installed it and it fit right up. So that worked out nice, except for that. Joker, the risers are a Joker machine part. Pretty satisfied with those. I would have liked to pick up some R1S ones, but they were completely out of stock, and they'd been out of stock for a while, so I gave up on those, went with something else I liked. Okay, so at this point you have your wires in your bars, and you're ready to install your bars onto your bike. Of course, after you'd resoldered your plugs back onto the ends. So go ahead and put them on, kind of put them on an estimate on where your bars are going to sit. Tighten them up, kind of sit on the bike, get kind of a feel for how they're going to be. Reason why I say that is because your pitch is going to change, might change your wires a little bit, or your cables a little bit. So you want to get them semi kind of close to where you want them to be. So now we have the other problem that I had. It wasn't really with what I bought. The problem was that the retail stores, so I went through Revzilla on everything except for brake line. Revzilla doesn't have brake lines for some reason. I don't know why, but they don't have them. So that I got from JP. But initially I bought everything except for brake line and clutch line. The two most expensive lines. Your push and pull, I bought those, I bought 6+ on those, Barnett brand. I wanted to go with Barnett brand on everything except for the one thing they don't sell, which is brake lines, just because they are a good company. I've never had any issues with them, me personally, so that's what I went through. So the problem that I had was all they had shown was a 6+ for the clutch line. Well, when I was doing my measurements, I realized that a 6+ was going to put a lot of strain on my clutch. Something that already is the stiffest part, I did not want to have any strain on it. If I went with a 6+, what I would have wound up having to do is reroute how it went on the bike. So it goes there, goes along there, goes through there, goes up and underneath the motor. And it ties in right there. So the other routing that you could do with this, that I actually would not suggest it, is it's going to come through there, and then it will come across here, and this is why I will not suggest this. It's going to come extremely close to the outlet of your exhaust on your frontwards head, the hottest point on the bike, right there. You'll probably have failure. It'll probably melt it and you won't have any clutch because you went cheap or you just didn't know this little trick. So I will show you on the computer on what I did to locate a longer one. So what I did there was I went through a different Dyna after pulling what the length of my original was. I want to say it was, I'd be lying, it was 60 or 50 inches. And then I needed a plus 10 in order to achieve what I have here. Then found one for, it was either 60 or 70. But I will show you that on the computer, and yeah. Luckily, JP had a plus 10 for brake line, they were thinking. Let me just show you how I measured this. Okay, so here is the factory clutch line right here. So I left this attached, and then what I did was it was in here, and then I went to this point right here where it connects in. I made sure that my pitch was right. I think it came down like way down here, and I think it was about 9 inches. I went up 1 inch because I wanted just a little bit extra play in that. So at this point we have all the cables we need. We've had them installed. Go ahead and turn your bike on. You don't necessarily need to start it. Well, it works. Just test all your functions. Make sure that you don't have any splices that are wrong. And there you go. Thank you for tuning in. If you like what you see, please like and subscribe. If you don't like, give me a comment. Tell me how I can improve myself. This was just a quick talking through on how to remove or how to install. This is just a talking through on how to install some different handlebars on your bike. One thing I forgot to mention, obviously, put your tank back on, put your seat back on. But yeah, till next time.